Science speculation and horror investigation. This is also partly with horror investigation with games. Now, often in the modern world, a lot of people assume that as we become more knowledgeable, more scientifically advanced, and we shed old political and social ideals, that the supernatural, aliens, or other horrors obviously become less of a threat. You can see this in film. A lot of modern horror movies waste a scene explaining why the main people's cell phones don't work because the scriptwriter is too incompetent to deal with the complications of technology. You can see it in nonfiction, such as recent idiotic assumptions that humans are less violent today than any time in the history, or claiming that past atrocities are the result of religious violence. This is ridiculous on the face of it. I'm not denying that there's been religious violence is obvious, but in the last 100 years, secular governments, for secular reasons, killed more people than every religious war in the history of mankind. Now, don't get me wrong, I like having secular governments. It doesn't mean we don't need to watch them, though. Just last week, I was watching a video that really got my goat. It was about how terrible and destructive revenge is, how it's a threat to us, we shouldn't have revenge. Really? I mean, revenge is destructive, but it didn't just come out of the blue. There's a reason that humans have the ability and the desire for revenge. Millions, billions of years of evolution have given us this desire because it enhances our species' survival. If you and your clan seek payback when you're injured, then other clans are less likely to injure you. We must have some degree of danger available to us, or sociopaths and predators will take advantage. If someone actually ever managed to really destroy the human desire for revenge, we'll probably go extinct. Pundits who glory in what they think is modern nonviolence is obviously unaware of the fact. Do we have less cults in modern history? Less ability for violence? When I look at the cult-like excesses of Ceausescu or Pol Pot or demon-worshipping murderers like the Chicago Rippers or Adolfo Constanzo, I see horror. But what if these monsters' mystic pretensions were real? Here is where Call of Cthulhu steps into the picture. We can make it real. I've been asked by keepers, how can you host a Call of Cthulhu session in the modern age? Because today we have so much power that the mythos couldn't get a foothold. I'm never sure how to answer because I'm like stupefied. The modern world is not terrifying? Really? Technology is neutral. The doors it opens aren't always safe to walk through. For example, the I can't use my cell phone motif is handily answered by a film in the 80s called Return of the Living Dead, in which the monsters specifically use phones to attract more victims.
I'm in distress. Send more paramedics. Send more
Also, witness the phone scenes in Ju-on or The Ruins or the Korean film Phone, in all of which the means of communication become a new vulnerability. We have threats today that were never faced in the past and only considered by the wildest pessimists like Lovecraft. What do we have now? Recombinant DNA, global warming, new viruses spread super fast by advances in communication and travel. The Black Death took years to spread from its home in Asia across Europe. Today it would take a month. What about the artificial intelligence singularity? Even our weapons are deadlier. Yeah, we've somehow avoided nuclear bombs since 1945, but we still have cluster bombs. We still have thermobaric warheads. We still have hypersonic missiles and nerve gas. And all of these are devastating in effect. And why do we think we're so much more advanced today? Maybe our technology, but our nationalistic and sectarian dreams are still in effect. Our nations are political and sometimes military rivals. Do we think humanity is not going to be ambitious and venal and greedy and lustful and cheating? And fundamentally, most important, we are not any smarter than the older days. Yeah, we might be better educated in some ways, but anyone who's encountered a child from a primitive culture like New Guinea or the backwards Philippines will notice that these children with no formal education, at least not much, with no TV, no smartphones, they are far more alert, inquisitive, and active than our own city-spread kids. They notice things around them. They're willing to experiment. They're eager to learn. Now, I'm not saying we need to discard our technology, but it's fair to say that our science has involved trade-offs, not just victories. It's fair to say that earlier people may have had a better chance of surviving the horrors of the mythos. Think about this. One well-placed electromagnetic pulse could take down our entire system over a continent and literally kill millions of people over thousands of kilometers as all our stuff went down. If the exact same weapon was set off a century ago, it would only affect those few close enough to actually be hit by the blast. We're in fact far more vulnerable than ever before. 3 bombs would cut off all the water to Los Angeles and it would be hard to get it back. You couldn't do that to London in the old days, but you can do it to us. In the end, the logic is life is tough. The existence of Lovecraftian horrors make it tougher. So you're probably thinking, well, it's a good thing Cthulhu and his guys don't exist. But here's what Lovecraft is trying to tell you. Monsters are absolutely real. Some of Lovecraft's monsters are from other parts of the universe. Other parts of the universe do exist. The universe is huge. There are certain to be dangerous beings out there who are more intelligent, more aggressive, and more dangerous than we are. Of course, not every alien is going to be a threat. But remember, our own galaxy has billions of planets which can support life. If we assume that we humans are somewhere in the middle of the heap or even at the upper end of being dangerous, that still leaves us with lots of planets that can have something worse than us. This isn't just speculation. This is how things have to be. The argument works like this. If we exist, then alien life must also exist. Therefore, some of that alien life must be deadlier, more advanced, and more terrifying than we are. This is Lovecraft's logic. Would it look like a Cthulhu? Maybe not, but you can't really argue with the logic. Now, most scientists say, hey, if we exist, so do aliens, and they stop there. They don't make the next obvious jump. Now, this doesn't mean that all alien species are a threat, like I said before. We might be smarter and tougher than 99% of the creatures out there, but that leaves 1% meaner than we are, and if there's 10 billion inhabited systems in the galaxy, that gives us 100 million things that could destroy us. Some Lovecraft monsters come from other dimensions. Are there other dimensions? Yeah. According to string theory, there's at least 10, and there's growing suspicion that there's parallel universes to our own with unthinkable creatures and potential. With our growing learning about black holes, wormholes, white holes, quantum burrowing, it's not impossible for us to one day explore those dimensions. And if we can do so, then whatever's on the other side can do so as well. Again, of course, not everything is going to be a threat, but it only takes one threat which is able to destroy the world to actually destroy the world. Now, some of Lovecraft's monsters violate known natural laws. How is this possible? I mean, by definition, we can't violate natural laws, right? We don't know or understand all natural laws. We particularly don't understand what the behavior would be of radically different matter or energy. For example, exotic matter, superstrings, and so forth. What happens at the Planck limits? We don't know. What's inside a black hole? We can't know. But this doesn't mean that there is nothing there, and that nothing could ominously have existence, even life. To sum up, I will quote one of my favorite quotes from Frank Belknap Long, Lovecraft's best friend. Suppose there was a greater horror. Suppose evil things from some other universe should decide to invade this one. Suppose we couldn't see them. Suppose we couldn't feel them. Suppose they were 4-dimensional, 5-dimensional, 6-dimensional. Suppose they were 100-dimensional. Suppose they had no dimensions at all and yet existed. What could we do? They would not exist for us? They would exist for us if they gave us pain. Suppose it was not the pain of heat or cold or any of the pains we know, but a new pain. Suppose they touched something besides our nerve. They reached our brains in a new and terrible way. Suppose they made themselves felt in a new and strange and unspeakable way. What could we do? Our hands would be tied. You cannot oppose the 1,000-dimensional. Suppose they should eat their way to us through space. I leave you with that pleasant thought. Like me, subscribe, get notifications if you wish, and I have other things to give you more bad dreams.